Hey everybody! Welcome to the Good Evening Kitties podcast. My name is Melissa, your ghostess with the mostest, and today I am reviewing Tales from the Crypt Season 2, Episode 3, Cutting Cards. This episode was pretty tense. I liked it. It's pretty simple, but it had a lot of suspense to it. I definitely kind of flinched and maybe covered my eyes a little bit on some of this. I don't know, it was a lot of chance in this one. Where you're like, oh my gosh, so you're like a little worried about it. But yeah, so this was a pretty fun episode. So we'll go ahead and get into it here. Let's see. Okay, so the description on the box says, who's got the losing hand? Forearm? Elbow? Find out in a shockingly high-stakes game of poker. And so this episode, of course, has John Kassir as the Crypt Keeper, and Danny Elfman does the theme song. This episode's screenplay was written by Mae Woods and Walter Hill. It aired originally on April 21st, 1990. It is directed by Walter Hill. He also directed The Warriors and Brewster's Millions. And he also directed 2 other Tales from the Crypt episodes. One I think we have done already, if not 2. I think just the one. It also stars Kevin Tighe from the TV series Emergency. Roy Brocksmith is in this episode as well. He's also in 2 other Tales from the Crypt episodes. He was in The Switch as the doctor and The Man Who Was Death, and in this one he plays the bartender. I noticed him right away in the beginning of the episode. I was like, wait a minute, he's been in some other ones, but yeah. It also stars Lance Hendrickson, who I like a lot. He's from Alien, Dog Day Afternoon, many other things. He plays a role in this episode as well. And so this episode starts out, because it's about playing cards, so it starts out, and the Crypt Keeper is playing a card game, and he's kind of opening up the episode and making funny pun jokes, and he's not really playing with it. Well, he's playing with like a skeleton, I think. They have some cards set up, but he opens up the episode to talk about guys who will take a stab, do anything to take a stab at a jackpot, That's what he says. So it opens the episode, and I don't think they're not in Vegas because they were talking earlier. They were talking later in the episode about having beaten each other in Vegas. But it's basically, this episode is about 2 guys who have a long-standing feud against the 2 of them and like to play games of chance. And they pretty much had it with each other. So basically Reno comes in and he's kind of cowboy-ish. He looks, he's got the Man in Black kind of cowboy outfit on. This is played by Lance Hendrickson. And he comes into this bar and he's wanting to get on the high roller table. He likes to, when he plays for a lot of money. And the bartender's like, well, the only person here is Sam, and which I believe his name is Sam Forney and Reno Crevice. And so he's like, the only person here is Sam Forney in the back. And he's just kind of back there playing games with himself, maybe solitaire and things like that. And so they're at this casino. So he's like, okay, well, he's the only guy in the back. And so Reno comes back there, and him and Sam kind of exchange words, not super nice things about each other.
I used to have a regular game back here with Gibbons and Norris and a bunch of the boys.
They don't come around here anymore. I cleaned them all out. I guess they weren't used to my kind of competition.
You trying to tell me something, Sam?
Yeah, I am, Reno. I'm just reminding you. I'm the best. I wouldn't want you to forget that.
You better see a doctor, because your brain has gone to shit.
And just how, they've been dueling it out for many years, and
I guess you're just remembering the $10,000 I took off you last time we met.
Of course, I was still driving around that caddy that I won off you now, wasn't I? Always wondered how you explained that one to your wife. But she already run off with that piano player?
Maybe I ought to just leap over this table and wipe that smile off your face.
I got a tip for you, Reno. You take on everybody that laughs at you, you're gonna have a lifetime of work.
Sam is basically sick of seeing Reno's face, and Reno agrees the same about Sam. And so Sam's like, well, let's make one last wager. Whoever loses has to leave town. I never want to see you again. We never see each other again. I don't want you to keep coming in here or trying to get me out of money, because basically they just been beating each other back and forth. So just exchanging money back and forth, whoever can beat each other, and they're just really sick of dealing with each other.
$100 don't mean nothing to me. But there is one thing that I want, and I want it real bad. I want you out of my life for good. I really don't like you, Reno. You show up and right away things just go to shit. 5 or 6 times you and I hooked up and somebody always gets burned in the end, so I'm willing to play. See who leaves, clears out of town, out of state for good, okay? We got a deal?
And so they're like, all right, well, let's play dice for it. So they're in the back room and they're playing dice, and Reno throws the dice and it's a pair of 6s. And so he's like, well, I guess you gotta go. And so Sam, who does not look like a cowboy, Sam just looks like a businessman, he's got a nice suit on, rolls his dice, and it is also a pair of 6s. And he's like, you want to go again? And so I'm pretty sure by the way they look and the way that Reno's acting, I think they're trick dice, maybe. So he's like, all right, well, I'm sick of playing these kind of games. Let's play something better to settle this. And he's like, you want to do this? Let's play Russian roulette. And Sam's like, seriously? Just me, you, and a gun? And he's like, yeah, let's do it right now. And he's like, you're crazy. And he's like, come on, whoever loses has, will have got to leave. And so, because, they'll be dead. And so Sam is like, well, I do happen to have my .44 out in the glove compartment of my car. And Reno's like, well, let's do this. And so they head out to the parking lot. This is actually, to me, one of the best scenes. I mean, they're in this parking lot outside this casino, just people walking around, driving around. It's nighttime. He pulls out this .44 and they're like, let's do it. Let's not back out. And so Reno loads the gun. So he double checks, he takes all the bullets out but one, puts it in, you spin the gun. And so this part, again, like I said, it's a really good scene because it's real stressful. And they're just sitting here. They're like, okay, we'll just do it right in front of everybody. And so they get started on the game. Sam goes first and he goes to shoot it. And at first I'm kind of like flinching because I'm like, are they going to show it? Because, I don't know. I can't remember this episode too well. So he clicks it, and you can see just the wave of relief, and almost like he probably needs a new change of pants after that. Like, he was just like, all right. So he's trying to be like, all right, that's right, yeah. Yeah, see, I'm fine. And so he's like, okay, it's your turn now, Reno. And so Reno's like, fine. And he says he has to focus. He goes to click it, or, there's no bullet. So, and, you can tell he's pretty relieved too. And he's like, all right, well, now we're down to 4 shots and it is your turn. And he does this great monologue here.
Thinking's the fun part of it. Thinking about it. Thinking about what's gonna happen. Listen to that little wheel of fortune click and turn into place when you ease back the hammer. Feeling that metal get warm against your skin. Wondering what it's gonna be like to feel your brains blown out through the side of your head. Wondering what comes after, if anything, or black. Wondering if you're gonna scream. What do you think, Sam? You gonna scream?
And so now it's Sam's turn. And he goes to do shot number 3. And they kind of show it where the hammer on the gun clicks back, right before they let it go. And so, yeah, this one was not a bullet either. And so now, it's getting kind of tight, kind of just tense because there's only 3 shots left. And now it's Reno's turn. And so they're still in the parking lot. And so he hands him back the gun. And Reno gets ready to do his shot. And he's right in front of him, right in front of Sam. And he's like, I can do this. And he pulls the trigger and it just clicks. There's nothing, there's still 2 more shots, and one of those is a bullet. And now it's Sam's turn, and now Sam's starting to get a little nervous, because now it's, you got a 50-50 shot here, and I think he was hoping it was going to go a little different. So he's starting to look a little more tense. And Reno's like, come on, it's your turn, it's your turn. Let's do this. He's like, you're going to make a 50-50 bet? Let's do this. And so Sam puts the gun to his head, and he's like, all right. And just as he's about ready to shoot, a car comes up with a guy and a woman in it, and he thinks they're the valet or something.
Hey, you want me to leave the keys in it?
Park it yourself, asshole!
Who you calling an asshole?
You heard my friend. Get the hell out of here.
Hey, take it easy, no problem. Crazy fucking lunatic!
this is funny too, because like the guy, he tells the guy who pulled up to park it himself, and the guy starts yelling at him. Then Sam shows up with the gun and points it at him and says, "You heard my friend. Get the hell out of here." And it's like, friend? Okay, sure. I guess they're friends now. And so as soon as this guy sees the gun, he's like, "Okay, bye," and just backs up without even like checking, just like bye, just heads back out. So now they're back to the gun, even though for some reason, Sam kind of covered his ass. I don't know why, but I guess because this was just something between them, didn't want to deal with it. And Reno's still looking at him like, "Come on, let's do it." And Sam was almost thinking that like maybe it was going to get interrupted, I think. And he's like, "It's your move unless you want to give it up and admit defeat, and can't do that because, it's just been a long-standing thing." So Sam goes to do shot number 5, and he works up the courage, he pulls the trigger, and it clicks. Sam does like this best like crazy laugh of relief. Not just because he made it, but now it's Reno's turn, and it's definitely got the bullet in it. That's it. He's gonna have to shoot him. He's gonna have to shoot himself. It's a 1-to-1, like you're gonna do it. So Reno's like, fine. And he goes to shoot it, and it clicks. And they find out that the bullet is a dud. So this whole time they've been working up this momentum and freaking out, and they're so stressed out now, and Reno is so mad. And he's like, "A dud? Really? The bullet's a dud?" And Sam's like, "Well, I mean, I've had it for a while, and, it could have gotten wet. I've had them for a couple of years, I guess, maybe." And Reno's, of course, accusing him of putting in, like, a ringer and saying, that's why you wanted to go first. But Sam's like, "Reno, you're the one who set the chamber and spun it, so I didn't do it. The bullets were probably just bad." And so they're like, "Well, now we got to figure out something else to do, because one of us has got to leave, and I'm sick of doing this." And they're like, "All right, fine. Name the game. Let's do this. We're finally going to do it." And so Sam says, "We're going to play chop poker." And at first I'm like, chop poker? I don't know that one, but I don't like it. And so they move on to chop poker, and now it shoots. They're back inside. And everyone's cool with this, apparently, because they're inside and they have a guy who's actually dealing the cards. Like, he's dealing the cards, and in the background are these 2 witnesses who are just like these guys in suits, just like in the back, like just waiting. And there's a meat cleaver on the table, and I'm like, oh no. They're getting ready to play some poker here, and the rules of the game basically are if you lose a hand, you lose a finger. And so they're playing 5-card draw. No chips, there's no pot or anything, they're just playing the hand and seeing where it falls, it says. And so the dealer deals it out. The dealer, like, I think the club has done this before, because next to the dealer is like some antiseptic and painkillers and gauze and stuff. And so, like, I think this is the thing that people do in this reality here. And so they go to play the first hand. And this is where it kind of gets tense too, because I'm like, oh my gosh, do I want to? Okay. And so they're going to cut each other's fingers off. And so they play the first hand, and they're both kind of bluffing and acting like they have better hands than they got.
Don't mess with me, Sam. What do you got?
2 pair.
3 ladies. I feel great. I'm sorry it took so long to answer the question. Which finger?
And Sam's like, all right. I'm trying to think what finger he wants to get taken. And he goes for his pinky. And so he lays it down on the table, and this is where I'm like, are they going to show it? It's gross. They're cutting off fingers, and they kind of show it for a split second, and then Sam just has this face where you're like, ugh. And then it shoots to, they've wrapped it up. So it's like, even after you get your fingers cut off, they just kind of bandage you up and go on with the next hand. So now he's got his hand there, and he's still got to like hold the cards, and he's missing a pinky. And it's all got, bandaged up. There's some blood kind of coming through the Band-Aid. And so they're like, all right, well, let's keep going. I don't know if they gave him any medication or what, but like he looks pretty stunned right now. And so they go to play hand number 2. And so they deal out hand number 2, and Sam's kind of shaky. They play the game, they get their cards. And this time, Reno has a full house. And Sam doesn't even show his. And so right away, Reno just grabs like the meat cleaver, and he's like, this is not your lucky night. Which finger do you want to go now? So, they chop off. I think he goes for the, ooh, yeah, they do kind of show that part. Okay, yeah, and so his face is even worse now. They chopped off the ring finger next to his right pinky. So now he's missing both of them. So next it shoots to, it's bandaged up, and now there's a lot of blood on the gauze, and he's got 3 fingers, and he is just not feeling very well. And Reno's like, I'm going to take your fingers and put them in some alcohol and pickle them so I can show people. And Sam's like sweating. He's like, well, let's just deal them in. By now, I think I'd be like, you know what, I'm done. I don't even think I would have done it to begin with, really. But I'd be like, you know, this is fine. I'm done. I'll leave. But he's like, you know, let's do another game. And so they're like, okay. So they deal out the game, or hand number 3. Okay, and now upon watching this episode again, I noticed that the 2 guys in the back are actually in lab coats. So I'm assuming they're some sort of medical professional. That's why they're next to the gauze and things like that. So besides just being witnesses, it looks like they are some sort of medical personnel, but you can't really see their faces. So it's kind of like a hush-hush thing. They're in a dark room. And so poor Sam is holding the cards in his little hand with his 3 little fingers. And they play their hand. So Reno lays down a pair of 10s. And Sam lays down a pair of jacks. So he just beats them. And Reno is like, I should have gone for that flush. You know, he's like, I'll make a deal with you, Sam. And this right away, I'm like, oh, what's the problem, Reno? You can't lose your fingers? Is this the problem? Like, right away, he's just like, well, let's make a deal. I'll give you back one of your fingers. You know, they can sew it on right now. And he's like, no, I'm on a roll now. I want your finger. He's like crazy. So he grabs the cleaver and he's like, let's do this. And he goes and chops off one of Reno's fingers. Oh, yeah, they did kind of show that one too. Okay. It's not super bad, but it's not great. And so he chops off, on his right hand, he chops off Reno's index finger, but it kind of looks like he cuts it like in half. So it's like half of index finger. So now some time has passed and it's daylight and you're seeing a lot of bottles and there's a woman and she's pouring some concoctions and it's kind of in a hospital. So she's like, you know, kind of on the lab side of it. And there's a room in a hospital and she's working on putting together, I guess, some medication. And there's Sam and Reno. And I assume they're in a mental institution, but they are both playing checkers and they are both missing their limbs. So it's gotten down to basically they're just torso. I mean, they have their thighs pretty much, but they're down to nubs. They're down to thighs, both of them, and both of them have nubs for arms. And they're all bandaged up and they're in medical gowns and playing a game of checkers on pillows on the floor. And part of me is like, really, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, really, like, it got that far. And then they're like, the best is that they're still together. Like, they can't even leave now because what are they going to do? You know, they can't drive really or anything. And they're playing checkers, something you have to, like, move with your face and your mouth in order to do anything. And they're still fighting. They're still fighting over this checkers game.
Crying out loud, will you get off the pot and do something?
You want me to make a move?
All right, I'll make a move.
King me!
You just left me a triple jump. You gotta be as dumb as you are not to have seen that.
Why don't you give it up? I told you, I've always been a lucky kind of guy.
How did they cut off each other's limbs all the way? Like, did the 2 doctors help? Did the car dealer help? Because once you can't cut off the last limb with no limbs. You know, someone had to have helped, but they're basically down to nubs and they're playing checkers and they're still fighting. I don't know how they're even going to do the triple jump, but all right. And then they say something that's kind of like, I noticed then they kind of come in together, and at first I didn't quite catch it, but so Sam leans forward and he goes, pass the gum. And I realize, I'm pretty sure that's how they're moving the pieces, because Reno had gum on his nose, and I guess you can pick up the pieces and slide them over with the gum, and so then he leans forward and sticks the gum onto Sam's nose so he can move. And then that's how the episode ends. So they're still dueling, even in this hospital setting. They'll never let it go. And that's the end of that episode. And it cuts to the Crypt Keeper, and he is frying up a couple fingers, pretty realistic looking fingers, in a frying pan. Crypt Keeper, you're so punny. And the best Crypt Keeper pun is,
I've heard of giving someone the finger, but this is ridiculous. But at the risk of going out on a limb, I've got to hand it to Creebus and Forney. They do anything to elbow their way to the top.
I get it, fingers. Yeah, so this episode was pretty fun. There's no trivia on IMDb I found for this one, but yeah, this episode was pretty good. It was, kind of different, a little stressful, like a little tense. The ending was, like I said, the ending's a little weird, but it was still really fun. So that was season 2, episode 3, Cutting Cards, and next episode will be season 2, episode 4, Till Death. So thank you for listening to the Good Evening Kitties podcast. Check me out on Podbean, Podbay, Stitcher, and iTunes. Like, rate, review, subscribe, share, any of that. And again, thanks for listening.
I just had quite a scare. I actually thought my heart was beating again.